Hi, everybody. Tammy Reyes here, psychic and intuitive. Welcome to my very first podcast. Today, I have a special guest helping me out. It's Mike, the tech guy.
Hey, Tammy. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for helping me today. I could not do this without you. You have been a godsend. Bless you.
Oh, thank you so much. So I came here for kind of a special reason to get a reading today. And I also wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about you. What got you into realizing that you have, these abilities or wanting to pursue learning how to become a psychic or empath?
I think that started when I was a little kid. It started with me with what I thought was communicating with animals. I sensed energies and spirits in certain places. And over the years, I realized how to put all of those pieces together, and that what I was really stumbling onto when I was little was metaphysics and psychic ability. And so that's where it started. But I was an elementary school teacher for 30 years, and I started working in elementary schools when I was 15 years old as part of my high school graduation requirements. By the time I was 16, I was teaching 3 kindergarten classes at once.
Oh, wow.
And I was so blessed to be under the tutelage of 3 fabulous teachers that kind of showed me what a life of teaching might be like. And when I was a teacher, I had emphasis on teacher development and teacher education and multicultural education. I've done everything from kindergarten to college. Mostly my time was spent in kindergarten and first grade with second language learners. When I was 29, I went in for a psychic reading, and it turned out to be life-changing. Ever since that time, I've been on a path of developing my psychic abilities and intuition and learning everything that I could about metaphysics.
When you got your first reading, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of things affected you, or what kind of things changed your perception on that?
My very first reading was by a dear friend, Alan Spinner, a teacher friend of mine. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, except for when I talked with somebody, using Alan in this case, I started to see things about his upbringing, his father, and I just started to tell what it was that I saw. After a while, it started to become more clear when I was receiving information that was true versus something that was just in my imagination. But I also was super lucky to have a fabulous teacher, Sarah Woods, and I was her very last student. Sarah used to be on Broadway, and she was a great singer. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I came to her one day for a reading, and ever since that time, nothing has been the same. I actually went through a complete metamorphosis that day, and everything that I thought about life and myself changed. And so ever since that time, I've been working on trying to be as good as Sarah, even though I was working full time, and that was kind of hard to keep that up. But about 8 years ago, I retired from teaching, which allowed me to have time to develop my intuition and learn as much as I possibly could.
All right. So as you were learning, what kind of things did you pick up first, and what kind of things are you studying now?
Okay, so I started working with Sarah once or twice a week for 3 hours per session, and she taught me how to meditate, and she taught me a lot about prehistory to give me a foundation for everything that came later. She also had me go work with different groups like shamans, a Wicca group, and there was a lot of learning to meditate and learning about my chakras, learning about my energy system, and learning how to run my energy, and learning to determine whether or not something is true or something that I can count on, some kind of information that came through that was true versus just my imagination. And ever since that time, I've continued to learn. I spent about 2 years with her, and then she said, it's time for, the baby bird to leave the nest, so go off and good luck. And in that time, I continue to learn everything that I can about metaphysics. since retiring, I'm able to give a lot more time to that. And so the things that I learn about now are more of an extension. I'm learning a lot about astrology, astronomy, quantum physics, quantum everything, as well as the arts and history. So those are the things that I'm working on today to make me better.
Okay. And how is it that you can develop that? Like, is it something you have to be born with, or is it something that you can kind of grow and learn about and anyone can get into, or is this kind of a specific calling?
Everyone has the ability. It's like our sixth sense. So if you're a person that exercises a lot and you're really muscular and buff, then you've worked your body a lot. And psychic work is a lot like that, except you're developing your psychic intuition. So the more you work on that, just like a muscle, it becomes bigger and more useful.
And do you have any tips on things that someone can do to start growing their intuition or start learning how to kind of tap into these things?
There's lots of things that you can do. I would say if you're a beginner, then there's 4 things that I would keep in mind. And this is the beginning of everything that I teach. And it always comes back to these 4 things. I call them my 4 important key points. And number 1 is intention. You have to know what your intention is, because your intention is going to determine the path forward. If your intention is to help other people to grow spiritually or evolve in some way, that's what we call coming from a place of the highest good or light. But sometimes, and an issue that could exist with some psychics, is their intention is not that. Their intention might be to manipulate or to take advantage or just to make money in some way. So knowing your intention and always coming back to that and reflecting upon it is super important. The next thing that is really key is there's 2 main emotions. There's love and fear that drives us developing our intuition. If we're coming from a place of love, then our experience tends to be positive. We grow, we expand, and so on. If we're coming from a place of fear, it kind of keeps us stuck. We can't really evolve. We can't really tap into spirituality or connecting with the other side if we're coming from a place of fear. So love and fear are something that we have to consider all the time.
So you don't want to go into it like if you're struggling with something or dealing with an immediate problem and you're trying to fix that immediate problem. It's probably not the best mindset to be in. You want to be clear-headed and go in with positivity instead.
So I might do a reading on someone that has a lot of fear, but as far as them developing their intuition, if they're fearful, it's like it just puts a roadblock in the way. With that said, I can't do a reading on anybody who is super fearful or who has an attitude of, oh, show me. If you think you're psychic, then tell me, when am I going to get married? How many kids am I going to have? Whenever there's that attitude that comes out, it's usually based in fear, and it puts up a block in such a way that I really can't do a reading for that person.
Right.
The third thing that I would offer to people that's really important is called open up your heart, mind, and lungs. Open up your heart means you are receptive to other ideas and energies. Opening up your mind is another way of saying you're opening up your consciousness, and you're open to the idea of learning new things. And lungs just refers to that as we learn how to meditate, we're always working on breathing, because learning to control our breath and learning to hone into that space after an inhale, before an exhale, is kind of a starting off point for connecting with spirit or the other side. And so opening your heart, mind, and lungs is something to keep in mind, and it's something we're always learning new techniques for. And then the last thing that I encourage people to understand when they want to develop their intuitive is signs, symbols, and synchronicity. Signs, because signs and symbols are universal. For example, a rose. A rose is the universal symbol for love. Whether you're in the middle of Egypt or Sacramento, a rose means love. symbols are going to come up over and over again as a guidepost. For example, when we do tarot cards, they're full of symbols, and those symbols mean something, and what they mean is universal. So learning to read signs and symbols helps us to develop our intuition and to become more certain in what we receive. And then synchronicity is really important. I think that's happening to you a little bit, Mike, because synchronicity is when you say, okay, I'm opening up my mind, I'm opening up my heart, I'm ready to learn new things. And you start to pay attention to what you encounter, the words that you speak, or how people speak to you, and you start to see synchronicity happening. For example, about a year ago when I said, when I realized that I need to put myself out there and help more, I remember standing on the cliff saying, okay, Spirit, Universe, I am opening up my mind. Show me what it is that you want me to do next. I'm open to other ways of thinking and being. And as soon as I said that, there was a shift in everything. And good things started to happen. There's all things I can say about that. But this willingness to pay attention and open yourself up, pay attention to signs and symbols, lead to synchronicity. Pretty soon, I met someone that wanted to do a show together, and then I met you, and you've been really helpful, and then little things have happened to you that are beneficial. So synchronicity means that we're on the right path, and the universe is giving us symbols and signs to pay attention to so that we keep meeting the right people or encountering the right things to get us to the next place.
I've noticed that too. I feel like whenever I am working on something new, I tend to randomly get like a sign here or there. Like I was working with a friend of mine who goes by the artist name of M7, and I was learning guitar the next day, and the chord that came up was M7, and it just reminded me of him. And I was like, gosh, it's funny how things just are always connected, and they kind of, it's almost like a sign that, hey, that's a good connection. You're doing the right thing kind of stuff, you know?
Absolutely. It's the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, saying you're on the right path. And when I say spirit, I just mean folks on the other side. You might perceive that as heaven or other dimensions. There's a lot of ways to interpret that. But there are always folks on the other side. For me, it's my angels and my team that are always like cheerleaders for me. Whenever I'm feeling confused or something and I ask for help, I'm shown the signs. For example, I was lost a few months ago in Greenwich, London, trying to find the fan museum. And I didn't have a proper map, and the phone was confusing me. The directions on the phone were confusing me. And so I just stopped there and said, where is the fan museum? Show me where the fan museum is. As soon as I stopped thinking and saying that, a couple with two really cute dogs came up to me, and they looked like locals. So I said, do you know where the fan museum is? And the guy said, there's a fan museum here? And the lady said, gee, we've lived here. We didn't know there was a fan museum. And I said, yes, there's a fan museum. And they said, I'm not quite sure where it is. And they proceeded to walk past me. So I looked ahead of me, walked a few steps, and there's the fan museum. Unfortunately, it was closed that day. It's not a real popular attraction, but anyway, that is an example of when you ask for something and Spirit is trying to do what it can to support you. The other day, I took quite a tumble cleaning the tortoise, and it could have been a lot worse than it was. I do feel that there was some kind of intervention. I feel it was a couple of my angels that did something that helped me to fall in such a way that I didn't get as hurt as I would have.
So it's kind of like the guardian angel kind of thing, someone watching over or giving you advice from here and there?
I agree. I think that is true. But in my experience, most people have 1 to 3 angels that they came into this world with. But
sorry.
Earthquake.
Yeah.
So we're experiencing an earthquake, and today is the 25th, and I didn't want to get too woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, but there are supposed to be tremendous things that happen today. We know from the last 24 hours there's been a lot of earthquakes throughout California and also on that line of, I don't know if it's called the Ring of Fire or something in the Mediterranean. It's still happening. And also in Northern California. And so...
Yeah, we get that a lot here. Still gets the nerves going, though.
So let's look into that for a second, because my husband thinks I'm a wackadoodle because I've been talking about watch out for the 25th, watch out for the 25th. It's
no,
not
this
just
is that synchronicity we talked about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a partial eclipse that happened earlier for us today, but it's the culmination of all kinds of energies, cosmic energies, personal energies, the craziness of our systems collapsing, governments, and things like that are all in a place right now where it's coming to a head and things must collapse or break down in order for new positive things to come up. I don't know all the things that are going to collapse or break down, but I do believe, and I've been shown for some time with my guides and everything that I read and learn, that this is a time of great change globally, not just for us personally, but throughout the world. And also I get that, I didn't want to do a reading for the collective until a little bit later in this, but I get that if there's anything that you want to shed, release, remove from your life, this is the time to do it. So if it's a pesky job, then you need to explore other ways right now to make a living. Or if you're in a unpleasant relationship, whatever the issue is, addiction is up for a lot of people. This is the time to shed that, to release it. It's as if the universe wants that to happen. With that said, it's also a time where we are to rebirth or create what we want to have happen. This is a time to manifest whatever it is that we want that helps us to grow and evolve. For those of us that are on a path of evolving, because it's not for everybody.
Absolutely. And do you ever get like mixed signals? Like when you get a reading, is it ever kind of like the whole angel and devil kind of archetype where you might get something that like sounds really bad, but maybe isn't necessarily bad? Or that you've later learned wasn't actually bad or a mixed message?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. There's been a couple of times where something dark came through, but I had such a good teacher in Sarah. And I learned that if anything happens, if anything shows itself that's dark, scary, of the devil or evil or something like that, we have power over every other energy. And so when I was doing a reading with a lady several years ago, a dark entity that I perceived to be what we call a gray, ET, started coming through the window that was behind her. And I was thinking, what the heck is happening? Am I losing it? What's going on? What am I looking at? And I knew that it was something dark and ominous. And so I did what I was told, which is just say, very clear and direct, get out of here. You are not of the light. I don't work with you. Get out. And it's okay to cuss at him and yell at him too. He sank away. He went away, and that was that. But later, when I was reflecting on why did that happen? What was that about? Because that was the first time that I saw something that was truly dark, and I was thinking, ooh, that's scary. And I think that it came with the woman that I was doing the reading on. It has to do with her baggage and what she was going through at that time. I don't mean it in a negative way. And so that was the end of that. If there's something we don't like, if there's a dark spirit or energy, remember there's love and fear. And we're coming from a place of love. And so what we want, if we're coming from a place of love, supersedes or trumps that dark energy. And so I haven't been in a position where I feel really scared or creeped out by encountering dark energies, because I know that I have power. We all have power over that, and we don't need to entertain that type of energy. I've always been blessed to come across positive things, and even sometimes I feel like I might have a little bit of a Pollyanna attitude that did not used to be me, I tell you. But it's because I've only been shown positive things since I've been on this path.
All right, so When you told me to ask questions potentially for my reading and think of things that I might want to know, I started thinking of what kinds of items you could even ask. What are some of the top things that you get asked from people asking for a reading?
People are always wondering about how a loved one is doing on the other side. If they're okay, if they can hear them, if they approve of what they're doing. And always the other side comes through with love. The overarching theme that we receive from Spirit is we're fine and we love you. We want you to be happy. We want you to have a life of joy and happiness. So it's always positive things that seem to come through. Sometimes I will perceive something dark and I have to determine how much do I share. And I've learned it's kind of a delicate dance to know how much to say. For example, I remember a really tough reading that I was in over my head. I was too new with a couple that were very tough, scary looking Harley Davidson motorcycle-y, scary tattooed looking people. Mm-hmm. And once they sat down, they weren't scary at all. What they were broken because they had lost a 3-year-old child. They didn't share how he was lost, but I got that it was some kind of a sickness. Mm-hmm. And it just broke them. They were never the same. And so what that showed me, and whatever I learned from every reading that I do, but it kind of made me have to look in the mirror and say, why are you judging the Harley Davidson tattoo-y people? Because they came there for such a high, special, sacred reason. And so what came through with that was to share with them how their son is doing. And I could see that it gave them a little bit of solace. So an example of when I held something back was in working with a young man recently who was telling me a lot of things that I wish I didn't know. And I had to say to him, you can make those choices if you want. We all have free choice. But if you want to get to a higher place like you say you want to, then you have to lay off this behavior and that behavior and those things that you're doing. But usually it's very positive. People don't usually come for a reading unless they're open to what I have to say. And so then it usually goes pretty well. Are you ready to have a little reading?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay, so how I work with a person to do a reading in person is a little bit different than over the internet. So when I set up an appointment with someone to have a reading, I get their name, and I like to have it at least 24 hours in advance so that I can meditate on them and pray for them and try to tune in to their guides so that I can be as clear as possible for when I actually sit down face to face with that person. So I am kind of meditating on them and thinking about them. The next thing that I do is always sit across from the person. So this will be a little bit different because you're to my left. And I light a candle, and a candle is important. And I light a candle whenever I do any kind of spiritual work because the candle is an indication of light, of goodness, of the highest truth, of Christ consciousness. The opposite would be to not have a candle, which does not declare that this is a place where only spirits that can be trusted can come through. So by putting the candle in between us, it's like saying only those that are of the light can come into this space. And so I light the candle, and then I need a little time to get into my space, and I will show you how I do that now. So I just kind of take a little while to breathe and get in my zone. As I'm doing that, I call for assistance. And so I ask for my spirit guides and helpers to place a circle around the circle that we have here sitting across from each other. I ask my guides and all of those that work with me that are of the light to assist. So I welcome my team. I welcome the animal helpers that I have and my own angels. And I also include any of the energies that are of the light and positive that work with Mike to join us in this circle here. By placing a circle of energetic light beings around us, it gives us a level of protection. We haven't talked about protection, but there are certain protections that we need to learn, or else we are inviting darkness, inaccuracy. It's the opposite of the light. And so I call upon all those folks to put a circle around our circle, and I ask, please, for me to be as clear as possible so that Mike gets the answers that he needs. And then I usually turn it over to the person getting the reading to see if they have any questions. If not, then I just go ahead and give them what I got. But do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think right now I'm going through a kind of a work transition. And I've gone through many of them before. I've gone from tech to teaching to writing to content. And I just got a new offer that's going to be very, very challenging, but could potentially be a beneficial partnership. So I kind of wanted to see if that's the right direction I should be going, if I should still be continuing my other projects, if I should do them all at once, or whether that's the right move for me.
Okay. So we talked about this a little bit the other day, and I was very excited because I knew that you were going to be offered something, but I don't understand what it is that you're offered because I don't understand what you do, but it's something fabulous. And so pay attention to that job for now, but don't neglect the other things. You still have all of these other, coals in the fire that you want to keep working on and developing because, like we've talked a little bit about before, you're coming into your power. You're starting to realize that you have an unconventional job or an unconventional way of making money because we're in such changing times that how a lot of us help other people and how a lot of us make money is changing. And so I call you, when you're not around, I call you Mike the Tech God, because you have a lot to offer. You have a patience and a maturity, I think, that's far beyond your age. You're starting to experience symptoms of synchronicity, and that's going to continue the more you pay attention to that. So like when you say, oh, I played a chord or something, I don't remember what you said earlier, and it reminded me of the person you were talking to yesterday. It's by no accident that synchronicity in play. And so if you're feeling in your gut, if you feel like in your physical being that, yes, this is a good move for me, if it's not raising any red flags or giving you like tummy trouble, a lot of times when an answer is no for us, our digestive system, our tummy is affected. So if you're not feeling any of that, that is a sign to go ahead and proceed forward. And the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities will come your way. And I guess maybe the biggest thing about doing psychic work and teaching other people how to be intuitive is learning that yes-no vibration. There's actually a way that our body responds when something is yes and true, and when something is not. So that feeling where, just coming up with something, you're going to go on a date with somebody, but there's something that just doesn't feel right. That's your energetic system trying to tell you, watch out, this might not be the one. And so learning how our body is physically reacting lets us know when something's good and true and to proceed forward or not.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I have gotten that feeling before. I never really equated it to that. I just feel like I have really bad anxiety. But I do get that feeling before certain things where sometimes more than others, I'll get that kind of butterflies in the stomach feeling. And sometimes it does push me to not want to do it anymore. And other times I'll feel like it's a very positive thing and I do want to. So it's kind of interesting how that works.
So you're kind of alluding to the yes-no vibration. So this would be a perfect time to try pendulums on you, Mike.
Oh, nice. I'm not sure how that works, so I'm
Okay.
excited.
Of course, when I went to look for my pendulums yesterday, I couldn't find them. And I've got like 20 of them already for students and everything. And so I said, okay, Spirit, where did I put those pendulums? Because I'm always reorganizing. Where did I put those pendulums? And I went off to do other things. I was putting some stuff away in my closet and came upon a box. And this was the other day on the 1-year anniversary of my dad passing. I was looking for the pendulums, and I found this little box that my dad's wife had given me with a little note on it, and inside were 2 little necklaces that belonged to my dad, but I guess he never wore them. And I saw them, and the one just said to me, pendulum, Mike is supposed to have this. Mm. And so this is going to be the one for you to use. And I'm going to show you how to do it with this. But what I usually use is a plain old key on a piece of yarn, but I couldn't find my pendulums. And so what I have here today is just a simple piece of silver, little acorn thing, on a chain. It doesn't have to be on a metal chain. It can be on yarn. Now, the purpose of a pendulum is just to show that you have energy and things react to your energy. And so I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but how I teach people to do it is, so you're going to, I don't know what this is here, rest your elbow on your knee so that you're not causing this to move at all. I think I can show it a little higher because I'm a little bit more used to doing it. So I am holding it still so that it doesn't move. And the first thing that we're going to find, Mike, is your yes vibration. What this does when you are emoting the feeling of yes. So you're doing it perfect the way you're resting your elbow on your knee, and then you're going to put your hand under it a few inches, and you're going to say, maybe go a little lower with your hand, like this. And you're going to do this. I'll model it for you first. I'm thinking yes. In my brain, I'm thinking yes, yes, yes. Now I'm switching my thought to big yes. So I'm thinking of, like music I like or the concert that's coming up. Yes. Now this is showing me that my yes vibration goes in a counterclockwise circle. And depending on how much yes I'm putting out there, that determines the amplitude. And so, you want to try that?
Sure.
Okay. So you just put your hand under it, and you start saying yes out loud.
Yes. That's right. Yes.
Now, think of things that you really like technology, or when you go to a concert, and switch your thinking to big yes.
Big yes.
So you're thinking of things that are very positive and loving for you, and you say it more. Say it out loud several times, because that helps get that intention out clearer. Eventually, you won't need to say anything at all, but...
Yes.
Okay.
Music, games.
So from the direction that I'm sitting, it looks like it was... Is that clockwise?
Yeah, clockwise.
Clockwise in a little circle.
It kind of stops, and then a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's because you're not holding your thought of yes. So your yes for you is going to be that motion where it's moving in that direction, and circular. But when it's a strong yes, the amplitude is larger. You'll get a bigger circle. And that's something that you can practice at home.
Okay, so whenever I have a question that I need answered, I could just kind of do this and see which direction it turns?
When we first get our pendulum, that's what we do, is we kind of play with it. So I remember taking mine to, there was this furniture store, and there was a picture, and I thought about buying it, but I didn't want to spend the money, so I took out my pendulum, and I was doing it, and the sales guy saw me, and I thought a little weird. I felt stupid, and I didn't buy the thing. But this is all it's doing is it's reacting to the energy that you're putting off. And we're using our hand because we have energy centers here on our hand, and it's just the most logical place when we're practicing pendulum. So now we're going to try with your no vibration. And so you're going to rest your elbow on your knee like you did. I'll hold mine a little higher. And you just start putting forth the intention of no, no,
No.
no. And you will note a different direction. So keep doing it. Keep saying no, and really mean it.
No. No.
Okay, so yours is going back and forth, which is common. A lot of people's goes back and forth when the intention is no. Now you're going to switch it to big no, like something you really don't like really annoying people or cilantro or something. No. And it will
no.
just kind of go back and forth with greater degree, with the wider. No, 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 no.
No. No. No.
So what we see with yours is it's counterclockwise circle, right? Was it counterclockwise? Clockwise.
It's weird. When I think of yes, it goes clockwise, and as soon as I even think of anything, whether it's a no or anything else, it just starts swinging.
That's because you're changing your thought. Mm-hmm. And every thought has a different energy. Our energy changes from moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day. And so when you're thinking of something fabulous like, what's coming up? Luxury travel, bring me luxury travel. And so it's going to be bigger. Now, when I start thinking of something else, like, oh, I got to do the laundry later, or it's changing because my energy is elsewhere. I'm putting out a different kind of energy. Okay. And so a pendulum is just a simple little tool to help you hone in to when something is yes and when something is no. And remember a little while ago I talked about how your body physically responds when something is yes or when something is no. And so if you were taking a class from me, we would practice this a little bit more, and we would practice little questions. For example, where's something good to play with? Usually I have rocks, so let me grab a rock. We practice with rocks because rocks have energy. And so I'm just going to set this here and ask a question. This is what I would do for you if we were really having a class. I would say, and it's responding before I even ask the question because I'm thinking it. So is this a good rock for me? And so the answer is yes. You want to try it with this one?
I put this in my hand.
So you're going to put it under your hand once you get your pendulum stable, and then you ask, is this a good rock for me? And repeat it a few times, and it's going to give you a yes or a no. But maybe move your hand with the rock down a little bit more. There you go. And you just ask, is this a good rock for me?
Is this a good rock for me? Is this a good rock for me? Is this a good rock for me?
So what do you think that is implying?
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not. Try it with this one. Now, this is a fun one because as you move it, the energy will change. The energy is going to be a certain way here and a certain way on the side.
Is there a thing about placement? Because when I put it in my hand, I got a weird feeling that this was the wrong way. I felt like I had to turn it around or something.
You're feeling the energy of it, and quartz
I was like, there's no orientation to a rock. Why do I feel like it's wrong?
See, look at you just learning already. That's because rocks have energy. That's why a lot of people use rocks and crystals and healing and psychic work and stuff. Now, it's just a tool. Mm-hmm. We can get the same kind of information with nothing at all, but it's a good tool to start off with. And that's a good rock to practice with.
Is this a good rock for me? Is this a good rock for me?
So how do you interpret that? Do you think that's a yes or a no?
I feel like it's weird because it starts doing a yes, mm-hmm. and then it kind of like goes straight again, and that was my unsure feeling before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest try turning it around and moving around, because you know how it has all the different facets?
Yeah.
They each have energy. Also, I've dropped that a couple of times in the last year, and it's broken and chipped. So hold it like with the pointy part up and say, is this a good rock for me? And see how your pendulum responds.
Is this a good rock for me? It's going the other way. Is this a good rock for me? It is moving a lot. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I'm trying to hold it still, actually.
Mm-hmm. And the more you move it around, especially when there's a point on it, mm-hmm. It'll react even more.
Every time before I ask the question, when I bring it up, it starts to turn as like a right. And then when I start asking, I think I overthink it and it straightens out.
It could be because it's responding to your energy and your thoughts. And so it's just a fun little tool to help us see that we are emitting energy and that our thoughts have energy. And it's fun at the beginning to use it for fun things like, should I buy this picture? Or really it's for something more important. And then as I'm teaching pendulums, I'm teaching when it's doing a yes or a no, what's your gut doing? What do you notice about your heartbeat? What do you notice about how calm?
Just about to mention that too. Yeah. I feel like it links up with the little circles it does, links up with like my heartbeat. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It like
They're
stays
fun. Still,
and every time I look at it, it starts moving and it trips me out because I'm like, I'm not moving.
That's because your energy is just creating that. It's reacting with the energy of the rock. Yeah. And quartz crystals are really important in doing this kind of work. They give clarity. I'm not a person that works with stones and using them to heal, but I do believe in that. I think it's really, really interesting and powerful.
I think that's something I'd want to learn to hone in on, because I think since I'm new, it's kind of hard to decipher, the message that's coming through, but it is a very real like movement that I'm noticing and stuff. So it'll be interesting to play with that.
And I'm really giving you a rush lesson too. Yeah. Okay. So there's a little bit about your energy. What other questions did you have, Mike, that we want to look into?
I don't know if it's something that's askable, but like health-wise, I feel like I'm always terrified that something is like, I'm dying. If I get a cold, I'm dying. If my arm falls asleep, it must be a stroke or something like that. Like I overreact for everything. And like, is there something I really need to look out for, or should I, relax a little bit?
Okay. So what your body is reacting to and what that anxiety is based on comes from past life dyings and illnesses. So let's look into that a little bit. Okay, so I told Mike before, but I don't know if he caught it because I've sort of given him high information, but I told you that you represent the divine male. The divine male means someone that has come into this life that is very open to spirituality and metaphysics, that represents the light. You're an older soul, and you're here to assist with the shift. The shift means all the changes that we're going through that hopefully in the other end are going to come out, everything's going to come out positive and more equitable and loving for all. Part of your job coming into this life is to assist others in that you are a light worker. You don't yet have the tools for it, because when I've talked to you about certain things, you allude to things that really help me hone into what makes me think that you are a light worker and you are supposed to help people on a broader level. And you do, and you're going to do that more. But this anxiety, this feeling that you get, has to do with past life dyings. And you got a lot of them because you got a lot of past lives. But there's a constant theme of you going to bat or war or battle for something that you really believed in and then it didn't go well for you. Also, past lives of as male and female, which we all have, as well as black, brown, gay, whatever the choices are, we've all been them. And so doesn't it make sense to just be cool with all of it? But anyway, you have a history of past life dyings where you were killed for what you believed in, where you went to advocate for a cause or a person, a group, a country, and you were killed for that. A lot of light workers have past lives where they were killed in really icky ways just for their beliefs. Think about like the Salem witch trials and stuff like that. Now, those lifetimes, those deaths, a lot of them were about dark meeting light. And even though you represented light in most of them, because we've all represented dark too, it didn't fare well for you. What you need to keep in mind this time around is you don't have that. You don't have anyone that is going to try to kill you for your belief system or the words that you say. And so when you start to feel the anxiety, like, oops, I feel trepidation about going out and doing this, or something bad's going to happen, whatever, just try to think, oh, you know what, that comes from my past life dyings. It comes from past life trauma that stays with us lifetime after lifetime until we clear it out, if we can clear it out. And so you don't have to worry about that so much in this life. So just see those anxiety times as, oh, this comes from another place. But taking it one step further, let's say you have a fear of, driving. So you may look at that and say, okay, I recognize there's past life dyings that could come into effect here, and this is why I have this fear or anxiety. But now I'm in this life, this 3D existence. I can't go on with this fear and anxiety. What is that coming from? And a lot of times we could trace it back to our youth and our childhood. And so what you have to remember, Mike, is that what you were raised around and who raised you doesn't wear the pants anymore. They're not in charge anymore. And you can make decisions. You have free will without anyone hurting you or making you feel bad or, taking away your money or whatever it was that happened that made you feel a little bit anxious. So just see it as this has to do with my past life dyings, past life business, or what is it in this lifetime that created this, and then realizing that you've got divine protection around you. You've got angels and the universe that is just your cheerleader and wants to work with you. And so in conclusion with that idea, this was up for me recently when we went to the Bay Area the other day. I know I really get on Ray's nerves because I'm just like white knuckling it the whole way, and I'm saying, "Don't you see that?" And he's like, "Yes, I see it," and he's getting kind of hyper at me and everything. So I promised myself that I would look at this fear and anxiety and deal with it head on, because that's what I tell other people to do. And I white knuckled less, but it was still something that was there. And so that just tells me that's something that I have to work on. So knowing your fears helps you develop your intuition. Remember, we talked about fear and love being the main things, the main emotions that drive us. So noting those things that cause fear and have a plan to move past it. That plan might be, I know that I have divine protection around me. I'm just going to relax. Also, visualize before you do the thing. Visualize step by step what you're doing and that it has a positive outcome. And little by little, you can tackle that anxiety and fear, because that's something that's from your past. You don't need to bring it with you in this life. Nobody's going to hurt you in this life the way past lives ended for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That just gave me some direction kind of to go to deal with that, because I feel like it happens a lot.
That I get is just your big lesson in this life is trust. Trusting yourself, trusting the vehicle that you're in, trusting that when you go from A to B, it's going to be okay. In fact, you're kind of needed. You, I hope, can welcome putting yourself out there, because where you go, you can help fix things.
Yeah, so I feel like that's definitely been my professional path, so I'd like that to be my life path as well.
I also get for you, Mike, that it's time for you to start collecting medicine. Oh, I didn't bring my medicine bag with me, but what that means is, and I give homework when I do a reading. Not that people always do it, but your homework would be, you need to go out by yourself in nature and walk. And pay attention to the things that are crossing your path. Is it a butterfly? Is it a lizard? It means something, and I can go over that with you when you're done. But it's time for you to start collecting medicine. That means little personal tokens that empower you. Now, they're just little physical objects. It's not like it's really going to save your life. But by collecting medicine, these things that are sacred to you, it empowers you. It helps you hone into symbols, symbolism, and synchronicity. So, see if I've got any around here. I cleaned up really thoroughly, so they're not here. Oh, okay. So this is one of my medicines that I use. Okay. It comes from these $10 lights that I bought about 30 years ago, and they come like 10 on a string. And I got it because that's my Granny Beth. It looks exactly like my Granny Beth. And so when I travel, I'll bring one with me. I only have 3 left, but I leave them in places that are really sacred. For example, I left one at the grave of William Blake, one of my idols. And I left one at the grave of Modigliani after I was done cleaning it up. It was really messy. But anyway, this is part of my personal medicine. If I had my medicine pouch here to show you, inside would be a dolphin tooth that my dad gave me, a little Mary, the mom of Jesus, thing that my granny gave me, a little rock wrapped in copper from Sarah. So little tiny things. And it's just in a little pouch given to me by Sarah. And when I do travel long distances, I wear it and tuck it under my
interesting.
My clothing. And what that does is it helps me when I'm feeling nervous, like, oh no, the plane's taking off. Oh, there's turbulence or whatever. Or there's a smelly person next to me. Whatever it is, just by noting that that's there, it grounds me. It's my personal medicine that connects me with spirit, with my higher self. And so it's time now for you to start collecting some of your personal medicine. Some will be given to you. Some you just find when you're out walking.
Nice. I like that. I kind of do that a little bit, or I used to do that. Like I went on a trip to Washington to meet my dad, and I was walking the river, and there was literally just a really smooth rock. And it was like, it's not worth anything. It's not anything special. It's just a rock. But I picked it up and I brought it all the way home. I'm like, I'm going to keep this because it stood out to me and it felt important.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I didn't know why, but I was like, I'm going to keep it. So I still have it.
Oh, okay. So try your pendulum with it. When you go home, practice your yes, no, and then say, is this a good rock for me?
Right. That's true. So thank you so much for my reading. That was really useful, and I will be doing the homework, and I'll update you. You know, we chat a lot about that. But I know you've been going through a learning journey as well. What kind of things have you been learning recently that's out of your comfort zone? Because I know I've been helping you out with a few things. Maybe you want to tell people about your business and stuff.
Everything technology. I didn't even know how to turn it off. And I really mean that, everything that has to do with technology. So I guess there's so many things that that I'm learning right now that's way beyond my pay grade. For example, cosmology, or the myths behind celestial bodies, the myths and legends behind astrology. Also, a lot of the science. When this James Webb telescope came online, that was super exciting. Mm-hmm. That was super exciting because I knew that it was going to start to suggest and allude to certain quantum aspects that are part of the metaphysical world. When I said a year ago or so, when I stood there and said, I am ready to open up my consciousness, show me what I'm supposed to do next, how can I learn and grow and be happy, but be of service to other people, that's when I started to see things in a much different way. For example, the first thing that I noticed was when I was out taking care of the garden and my tortoise, the parts that are golden or yellow on the tortoise were brighter. I started noticing when I was looking at certain plants that there were vivid colors, that there was movement and energy coming from other living things like the animals and the plants that I hadn't quite perceived in that way before. And then I had an experience a few months ago in London where I was standing on a bridge. It was a beautiful, sunny day, and I was standing there feeling guilty about poor Ray being home taking care of the animals, and I'm there having this fabulous time. And I looked up and I said, thank you. I am so grateful for this opportunity. I can't believe what I get to do. But I do want to be of service, and what do I need to know next so that I can proceed? And I looked up, and this is going to sound crazy, but when you open up your consciousness, stuff happens. And I saw what I describe as crystalline structures, crystals coming down from the sky. And really what that was is we're kind of at a place with the sun where there's a lot of like explosions that are coming off of the sun that can affect us and our technology and stuff like that. And so I can rationalize and say that that's what I was experiencing, was just a more intense energy coming from our sun. But it seemed to come with what I call a download, which means being given information that I didn't have before, where certain things were clarified. And also not a warning that was coming, but, and this always happens when I travel and I have moments like this alone. There was kind of the information, the download that I got was, when you go back home, or even when you cross this bridge, the way you interact is going to change. The way you perceive things is going to be different. So stay open to that, because remember, you have love and light and all that. And so at that moment, when I had already experienced the colors changing, being so vibrant and almost moving and alive, and then what I perceive as these crystalline structures or strong light rays from the sun, carrying downloads of information, kind of made me realize, well, what's next for me to learn? What does this mean? What am I seeing? And so that's when I started really studying cosmology and getting a little bit more into some of the physics involved. And so those are some of the things that I continue to learn. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to do the reading and letting everyone know a little bit more about yourself. And then you can go ahead and do an outro if you like.
Okay. So I hope to put myself out there in more ways. I would like to start teaching an online class in addition to in-person classes, and I'm calling it Psychic Awareness 101 with Tammy the Psychic, and it's going to include things like developing your natural psychic ability, learning about your chakra system, learning to run your energies, your yes-no vibration pendulums, meditation and visualization, and I also gear my classes for the individuals. So if there's 5 people in the class, I'm pretty good at knowing exactly where each person is and where they need to go next. So I'm going to be putting myself out there in that way, and then one day perhaps a live stream, And that's what I look forward to, is to being of service and broadening my skills.
Awesome. So they can like and subscribe on YouTube, on Facebook, and at your website, which is?
My website, TammyThePsychic.com.
Awesome. Yeah, be sure to check it out. And see you guys next time.
Thank you kindly for tuning in. Thank you, Mike, for helping out today. Blessings.